What's going on, everybody? This is Shonee Jackson Show. Just want to do a quick week one review of college football and then do a Longhorns Michigan preview for you real quick. I touched on everything else on the other college show I do, 54 Yards podcast. Please subscribe to that. We recorded yesterday that we'll be releasing today with a lot of information, a lot of on the week one review and week two preview. So I just want to give you some winners and losers. My winners of week one, hold on, I got it right here. Sorry, I should have pulled it up. But my winners of week one are going to be Quinn Ewers, Notre Dame defense, Miller Moss, Carson Beck, and Ryan Williams. Quinn Ewers looked like Aaron Rodgers, which is my comp to him. He looked completely dialed. He was 20 of 27, but in reality, we had a handful of drops. He really only had like 2 missed targets the entire game, which you could count as incompletions. One was his interception, and there was like one more in the entire game. The rest of them were drops. He knew where he wanted to go with the ball before he snapped it. Every single play, it seemed like. He had a no-look pass that led to a touchdown. Just phenomenal. As good as you like. He's my Heisman Trophy prediction winner. I've told you I think he's QB1. I think he'll be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And he looked like it in week 1. I think that continues going into week 2. Notre Dame defense, obviously just stifling that Colin Klein A&M offense. My biggest loser is A&M. And the Colin Klein offense. That's what I told you. I tried to tell you, tried to warn everybody. I posted it everywhere that I could. I had a clip. It's on my TikTok. Go follow me on TikTok. I predicted that Notre Dame would win as the game wore on. They would suffocate A&M, and they'd win by more than 1 touchdown. And that's exactly what happened, right? So follow the SJ Show. Follow 54 Yards. Follow me on TikTok. Follow me on the socials. I can see into the future, baby. You either want to enter the Matrix or just be a part of the Matrix. It's the red pill or the blue pill. Subscribe, you take the red pill, you can enter the Matrix. So the losers, A&M obviously. Going back to more winners, Miller Moss. USC looked great. I think that USC can win the Big Ten championship with Miller Moss. He looked phenomenal. Carson Beck looked great. Live arm. They dominated Clemson. Him, Quinn Ewers in a race for the Heisman Trophy in my eyes. And then last but certainly not least, Ryan Williams, the electric 17-year-old out of Alabama, had 2 receptions for like 130-something yards and 2 touchdowns. That's like Randy Moss, rookie of the year shit right there. When Randy went to Dallas on Thanksgiving, he had like 3 receptions, 3 touchdowns. That's what that kid looked like. He's 17 years old, skipped his senior year of high school, doing that at the college level. I think he's going to do it all year long. I think this kid's going to compete for the Blintnikoff Award at 17 years old. All right. My takeaways, Colin Klein offense is lame. Miami can run the table with their schedule, and I think they should. They might lose 1 game, but Miami's going to win the ACC and be in the playoffs. Clemson's dead. Georgia is not. Marcus Freeman is an upgrade over BK. I think that Marcus Freeman is a look into the future of college coaching, and Brian Kelly is a look into the past. That's the best way I can describe that. See who's texting me right now. Political text. That's crazy. What else did I say? The Texas Speed. They look like the fastest team in the country. I think that's going to show again this week. And then Will Howard and Dylan Gabriel are the same guys that they've always been. They're just guys. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about Texas and Michigan week 1 preview, and then I'm going to do a pick'em show after this. So Texas opened up as a 4-point favorite. They have jumped to a 7.5-point favorite. I think that number will get to 9 before it kicks off on Saturday. Michigan and Texas couldn't have looked more different in week 1. Texas looked like they could have scored 80 points. Michigan scored 2 total offensive touchdowns against Fresno State. Texas played Colorado State, team in the same conference as Fresno State, a team that will be competing for that conference along with Fresno State, right? Quinn Ewers was 20 of 27 for 260 and 3 touchdowns, where Davis Warren was 15 of 25 for 118 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Jarrett Gibson, the true freshman, actually led the team in rushing yards, but that's because we rotated a lot and set Jaden Blue early in the game. Jaden would have easily eclipsed 100 yards. Jarrett Gibson had 10 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Their leading rusher had 15 carries for 92 yards. Our leading receiver was Ryan Wingo, another true freshman, for 4 receptions, 70 yards. We had 11 different receivers get receptions in that game. And then Colston Loveland, Michigan's tight end, 8 receptions for 87 yards and a touchdown. That, speaking of Colson Loveland, that's a talking point in this game. I think Colson Loveland will be taken out of this game by that Texas defense. One thing that's interesting, all right, let's break down the games. Let's break down the matchup. Texas was a little leaky in the run game. Why was Texas leaky in the run game? Because they invited Colorado State to run the ball. Colorado State runs more of an air raid offense. They only threw the ball 18 times against Texas. Why is that? That's because the defense Texas was deploying, again, the exotic dime packages that Texas was deploying against Colorado State to invite the running game. Are they going to invite the running game against Michigan? Absolutely not. Okay, you will see much heavier fronts, much heavier defensive packages, along with man coverage defensively, because we believe and know that we can play it against this weak-ass Michigan receiving core, and I think that we'll take Loveland out of the game the way that we took the best receivers of Colorado State out of the game. This Texas defense has the personnel finally, since Pete Kwiatkowski has arrived, to allow him and Johnny Nansen, the addition to that defensive staff, to be as exotic and multiple as they want to be. You might see a different defense every week that you see Texas come out and play. All right, we played more of that air raid Big 12 style that we were used to playing in Colorado State, so you saw exotic dime packages being thrown out there. That's not what you're going to see this week. All right, you're going to see more heavy sets, 4-3, even 3-4 looks, and different packages with different personnel, because we got that type of personnel and depth to do it. Excuse me, and I'm very excited for that. All right, I think Anthony Hill, the combination of Anthony Hill and the safeties that we have, Jahdae Barron is a guy that may be stuck on Loveland. Jahdae Barron's a guy that I think will play more safety this week than he played last week. Let me get a sip real quick. And we will be able to take the Bill Belichick strategy, take their best player away from them and make you beat them elsewhere. We're going to take him out of the game, and we're going to take the running game away, and we're going to force them to throw the ball. And one way we're going to do that, it's jumping on them early. Now, I'm just as high on Michigan's defense as anybody in the world. It's one of the best defenses in the country, if not the best defense in the country. The two guys in the middle, Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, are as elite as it gets. That could be two first-round picks or first- and second-round picks right there. Will Johnson, he's arguably the best defensive player in the country. That's a corner that can take a side of the field away from you, right? He can play in phase at an elite level, better than anybody in America. He plays in phase, all right? That's man coverage. He can play in zone. He can read the quarterback's eyes and play very aggressively off of that. And yet, this is the best receiving unit he's played. And I understand that those Ohio State teams with Marvin Harrison Jr. and others, but this team is so deep that we got about 6 guys that could be number 1 receivers in the SEC and Big Ten amongst many teams across the country, right? We got about 6, 7 guys, and I'm not even being hyperbolic when I say that. I'm being dead ass when I say Texas has 6, 7 number 1 receivers, and they are all very, very fast. That's to go along with the third-year starter in Quinn Ewers that I said at the beginning of the podcast I think will be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, all right? He's the highest-rated quarterback prospect of all time, along with Vince Young and Trevor Lawrence. He is Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes-like in his throwing abilities, and now he is seizing it in between the ears and his processing speed. And his interception in that play alone, that was the only play where he kind of reverted back to the old him, where the protection didn't even break down, but he kind of started to run and escape like it did, and then he tried to throw a pass, it got deflected, and it got interception. But other than that, he looked dialed in his footwork, he looked dialed in his mentals, getting in between his progressions and getting the ball where it needed to be very quickly. I don't think that changes. And then you're playing a Wink Martindale defense that is going to be aggressive to a fault here. All right, that's going to play into Sark's RPO offense that he's going to run, and we're going to deploy heavy RPOs right out the gates. And I think we're going to have success in the RPOs right out the gates. In fact, I think we're going to actually have success punching Michigan in the mouth and running out the gates. And I think that that's going to be a point that we come out and prove early on. All right, and then once we do that and we start to have success in the running game and we start to have success in the RPO game, go down the field and score early, that's going to force Michigan to bring up their depth of their safeties to 10 to 8 yards, right? And when they get overly aggressive to bringing their safeties to 10 to 8 yards, what Sark is going to do is create the illusion of an RPO. The play is going to look like an RPO. It's going to smell like an RPO. It's going to feel like an RPO, but it's not going to be an RPO. What it's going to be is going to be a deep post. And it's going to be a deep post with one of the fastest players in America. And whether that's Will Johnson or somebody else at Michigan covering him, good luck. because this Texas pass protection is going to be really good. And as good as that Michigan defensive line is, and as good as that defensive front is, I don't think their strength is in pass rush. And even if it is, I think the 2 tackles that Texas got is as good as it gets, and our pass protection is as good as it gets in America. And you're not going to consistently get to us that way. The way that you would do it is Wink Martindale blitzing a lot, and you can count on him blitzing a lot. This is a guy that blitzes about 60% of the time. But mind you, I know he was in the NFL. He's pretty much got fired from his last 2 jobs. I guess it was you can't fire me, I quit in New York, but he got fired in Baltimore and they got better, and then he quit on New York and now he's at Michigan. Quinn Ewers, this is a perfect test for him early on, not only to face up and match up against this elite defense to show NFL scouts what he looks like. He's only rose to the occasion many times before. Alabama and Tuscaloosa a year ago is a great example. But to see how he sets his predictions at the line of scrimmage, I think a key to this game, Quinn Ewers and our 5th-year starting center and Jake Majors, setting the protection at the line of scrimmage will be key here. Picking up blitzes, and if you do so, then these receivers that can fly and are really, really good are going to break open and have some big touchdown plays, whether it's those deep post routes that I'm talking about or even shorter routes where you get the ball out to open space where they blitzed and they just take it to the house. All right? So this is the type of game where like an Isaiah Bond or a Matthew Golden or whoever, just name the guy, could have 2-3 receptions but 75, 80 yards and a touchdown or 2, right? Those are the type of plays I think. I think we chip away in the run game. We chip away in the RPO game, and then we hit them with the big plays, just Steve Sarkisian style. That's the way this game goes. Like I said, it's set at 7.5. I'm hammering the 7.5. I'm hammering it 8.5. I'm hammering it every single time it changes. If it goes all the way to 10, I'm going to hammer it. All right? I think this Longhorns team is just going to show America how much pressure they can put on you offensively, how they can beat you every way. They can beat you at your own game. They can beat you at your weakness, and they're going to do it to Michigan in both ways. I think it's a team that gets close to 34 to 40 points, and for the second week in a row, doesn't give up an offensive touchdown. This Michigan team doesn't have an offensive identity. It has an identity that it wants to have, and that's to run the ball down your throat in a power running scheme that it's had the last 10 years or so, but it doesn't have the personnel to do that. Therefore, that's not the identity it's going to have. Whether it's Davis Warren, whether it's Alex Orji, they're going to have quarterback play rise to another level, and I don't think it's starting this week, okay? This is not the team you want to play when you haven't found your offensive identity or even found one quarterback that you want to roll with. What's the old saying? If you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one quarterback. Well, Texas got 1 quarterback, and their backup is really, really good too, probably better than both of your quarterbacks, right? Texas is surefire everywhere. What this Texas team actually is what Michigan was last year. All right, Michigan was coming off of 2 straight semifinal appearances where they fell just short. First year they got blown out by Georgia. Second year they got upset by TCU. But they bring all these players back. They bring their quarterback back for a 3rd year starting. Their coach is back. The whole 9. You know they're primed and ready for this run. That's what Texas is this year. And Michigan is more 2010 Texas, coming off of Colt McCoy leaving and what happened there. Now, does Michigan miss a bowl game? I don't think so. I think their defense is too good for that, and that the quarterback play across the Big Ten won't be good enough to put that kind of pressure on them week in, week out to where they lose that many games. But I think like ceiling 8, maybe 9 wins, just because of the quarterback issues and offensive weapon issues, quite frankly, and your offensive line isn't as dominant as it was when they won the Joe Moore Award a few years ago, and then even last year. You got like 7 guys drafted, right? So this is really just a tailored matchup for the Texas Longhorns to go into Ann Arbor and make an absolute statement and put on a showcase for the country. Put on a Heisman showcase for Quinn Ewers, put on a showcase for the rankings guys, put a showcase for the playoff committee who hasn't come into play yet, for everybody in the world to put everybody on notice the way Georgia did to Clemson a week ago, and show that there's levels to this and there's a separation at the top of college football with the Texases and Georgias in the world and everybody else right now, and that you better look out if you don't have a quarterback that's going to be able to show up and duel Quinn Ewers, because I think week in, week out, this Texas team is going to rival 2019 LSU, 2020 Alabama offensive-wise. We can just apply way too much pressure. The offensive line is too good, and you got a 3rd-year quarterback in the system that's maybe the best system for quarterbacks in all of college football. Look at the resume of Steve Sarkisian and his quarterbacks in the third year. I've said it over and over again on this podcast, and every time a microphone's in front of my face, third year guys under Sark go bonkers. Quinn Ewers is going to surpass, I think, maybe anything anybody's ever done with Sark. You got more games this year that are going to be played because of the expansion. And then it's just modern offense versus the handicapped defenses of America in today's football. I think Quinn Ewers is going to go crazy. He's just got way too many weapons. Again, the offensive line, the running game is going to be strong. And in these matchups, when you get more man coverage than what we're used to seeing, now you're going to see the big shots, the big plays, the really large highlights. That look sexy and that you're going to see in New York at the end of the year when they're giving out that Heisman Trophy award. So my prediction is Texas, they show up. They don't only win, they dominate from the first quarter to the last quarter. They make a statement. I got this game going 44 Texas, 9 Michigan. Absolute blowout. 44 is a large number, and that's not a shot. That's not me being naive to the Michigan defense. It's saying that Michigan defense is going to be on the field all game long against a Texas defense, running them side to side, moving the pocket, jet sweep action, moving them sideline to sideline, and then these long crossing routes across the field over and over again, dragging your tongue defensively. That's when this game breaks open. That's when you can see Texas get into the 40s. If not the 40s, high 30s. But I'm putting my balls on the table for this. 44-9. Texas Longhorns absolutely dominate in Ann Arbor and make a statement to the world that they're the best team in the country going for a national championship. That's my Texas Longhorns preview. It's a spicy one. Comment, let me know what you think. Hold me accountable after the fact. I don't care. This is for engagement. I love y'all more than you know. Not as much as you think. God bless. Bless. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the game. Big noon kickoff. We're getting right after it on Saturday. Love you guys. Goodbye.